お前はもう死んでいる。何?
Hello and what's going on, guys? It's Wolf Sensei here to bring you our first versus battle. I am really excited about this one, so I really appreciate everyone for tuning in. Today's versus battle is going to be involving Ryo from Tokyo Ghoul Jail versus Haise Sasaki. So I wanted to give a quick breakdown of Ryo before we go ahead and actually start this up. In order for his character necessarily to make sense, he actually comes from the Japanese anime game Tokyo Ghoul Jail. And how he fits into our storyline per se is we have to a degree accept Tokyo Ghoul Route A due to the factor that he ends up eventually getting to the Anteku Anteku coffee shop, and there is where he ends up meeting Ken Kaneki to help him actually find out who Jail is and free his name. So before I go too far into his actual backstory without actually summing up everything else, Ryo is the main character of the Japanese game called Tokyo Ghoul Jail, and it takes place in the 6-month time skip between the original Tokyo Ghoul during volumes 8 and 9, or also known as the Algeri Tree Raid arc. During this time period, the CCG had raided the Algeri Tree base. Eto and Tatara used that as a diversion to free specific ghouls from the Cochella, and Ryo's one of those members that was released. Ryo is being framed for the slaughter of multiple ghouls during his escape, and during that time period of search trying to free his name, he eventually comes across Inteku coffee shop looking for clues as well, and ends up meeting our gang, Ken Kaneki and the rest. I'm going to give a brief breakdown, going ahead and explaining the Kagane abilities of Ryo. I do apologize if this is a little drawn out due to the factor that unfortunately, spoiler alert, he actually has every single Kagane available. He has a Rinkaku, which is similar in appearance to tentacles releasing from his back and waist. It's very common for most Rinkaku users to have very powerful regenerative capabilities, as well as being able to make up to 8 tentacles. They can also form their tentacles into a stronger tentacle due to the factor that unfortunately, on their own, they're usually the weakest of the Kagane types by themselves. Ukaku Kagane spread out like feathers releasing from their shoulder areas. They usually focus more on speed-based attacks, as well as having spike-like projectiles. Kukaku Kagane release from below their shoulder blades. They're the most dense of all the 4 Kagane types, and generally are shaped into armor or shields for defense, and drills, hammers, and blades for offense. Bikaku Kagane have a tail-like appearance and is released from the tailbone. They are the most balanced of the Kagane types. They don't have any necessarily notable strengths nor weaknesses, and are capable of contending with all of the other Kagane types. Now there's one thing, a very important thing that I feel I need to add before I go ahead and complete my breakdown for Ryo's character. At the beginning of the series, you end up choosing which Kagane type you are, which personally is me to believe that Ryo has little control over all of his Kagane types. I just wanted to just necessarily add that in there due to the factor that as we do the breakdown, I won't be going about it as if he can just on the fly just use all of these different Kagane types. There was, I don't want to spoil too much into the story, but long story short, due to a traumatic experience is what necessarily allows for him to his mental state to break to where he releases all of the Kagane. It's not something that he has control of, and usually doesn't have control of himself. It's usually comes out in a sense of a last resort, like his body's fight for survival in a sense. Then we have lastly Ryo's experience. Now, not much is known about Ryo at the beginning of the series, as in like his birth history and stuff like that, to really break down on his like any unique skills or anything like that at all. But after the Coachella raid arc, he is trained by Yomo and regularly ends up sparring with Ken Kaneki. And as most schools end up doing, he ends up fighting a lot of CCG members. Well, I won't say a lot, but due to the factor of him trying to more or less free his name and it being a video game, obviously he does end up fighting CCG members. But for the most part, they are, I definitely say, around mid-tier. There were some top tier, like I know that like at the end of the game, Kijima is an associate special class who's the final boss that he ends up facing off against. But other than that, there doesn't really show too many other feats of him actually fighting off or gaining experience from other difficult matchups, I would say. Yes, so thank you guys for your patience. I am completely done with Ryo's character. So now moving on to Haise Sasaki. Haise Sasaki's personality emerged when the tragedy for King Kaneki was too much to bear, and the CCG wanted to reboot him into society as an ghoul investigator. As the leader of the QX squad, Rank 1 investigator Haise Sasaki carries one of 3 Yukimura Quinke given to him by his mentor Kishiro Arima. Haise Sasaki is a half-ghoul with a Rinkaku Kagane. After his intense training with Kishiro Arima, he has mastered his abilities with his Kagane sword, and with his RC type and intelligence, he is not only able to fight hand-in-hand with his Quinke, but is also able to manipulate it at will. Some of the feats that he has shown are creating a giant claw or a fist, cutting Serpent's Bikaku in half by transforming his Kagane into a sword, stretching his Kagane long enough to dig into the ground and tunnel out as a surprise attack, as well an attack against Serpent. We also cannot forget to add the dormant personality that Haise Sasaki is consistently keeping at bay as a trump card. Due to the factor that it's not his original body, Haise Sasaki is consistently trying to fight off and suppress the personality and maintain control over his own body of King Kaneki, but whenever his bodily damage is too great, the personality of Haise Sasaki is gone and King Kaneki remains, just like in his fight against Nishio and Takizawa. With that said, I definitely want to add that Haise Sasaki's mental state is definitely broken by that point. And because of that, I do believe that that is why his attacks come off much more potent due to his lack of remorse with his shattered personality due to King Kaneki mainly being at the surface by that point. But that's enough of our breakdown of these characters. So who actually wins this fight? So, starting out, I definitely see that Haise Sasaki dominating this fight. Due to his experience as a ghoul investigator and his top tier training from Arima, I don't feel that Ryo has fought up against enough strong enough investigators. I do feel like that yes, he's had a lot more experience in it since he's been a ghoul his entire life, and it probably was a lot more to take him down personally to get him into Coachella. So I will add that. But at the end of the day, the only person that we actually have feats wise for him to face is a Route A Ken Kaneki, as well as Kijima, who is an associate special class investigator. The problems that I see for Haise Sasaki come in the late fight. Midway through, I see Haise Sasaki definitely overwhelming Ryo with his speed and precise movements, creating openings that would, if not create a fatal blow, definitely be near fatal for him. But with him having a Rikaku Kagane, his regenerative abilities, I feel like, are going to come into play and would also break his mental state due to the stress levels of fighting such an intense fighter. And this is where I see the fight definitely making a massive shift. Because of his lack of knowledge of the different Kagane types that Ryo has, I see it really throwing Haise off guard and starting to shift to where he needs to fight, ask for help from Ken Kaneki to be able to win this fight. So that honestly, at this point, it really breaks down to 2 questions. Well, actually, no, not even 2 questions, just one real question. What is stronger? Is Ryo's Kagane abilities, are they stronger, or is Kaneki's body, or Haise Sasaki's body, is that stronger? The reason why I bring that up is because I don't know if many fans have actually watched or read the original Tokyo Ghoul, but those that know, Ken Kaneki has actually put his body through a lot. And then not only that, with his Rinkaku regenerative abilities and his Rinkaku being made from the Sunlight Garden, he's just on another level. I definitely rank him in his regenerative abilities, those in of itself, in the top 5 of all of the Tokyo Ghoul characters. Rio, on the other hand, has every single Kagane type, and that's just ridiculous. But his mental state is entirely broken, and although that is the point that gives him the ability to use them all, I don't see with the fights that we have seen from him, even if you move on further towards in Tokyo Ghoul Re, where he actually ends up fighting some CCG investigators. He loses against an investigator with just a blunt sword. It didn't pierce him at all because, as we all know, that swords are not able to actually pierce, or blades are not able to pierce ghouls at all. But the trauma beat the crap out of him. Like, he wasn't able to continue on in the fight, and he actually ended up losing that. And helped out Uri in that, but I don't want to spoil too much on that episode or chapter. We're not there yet for anime and manga viewers. I do apologize, but regardless, Rio has shown skill, but he has not shown the focus to go ahead and to complete this fight. So if anything, I see it as to where Rio wouldn't necessarily put up a strong enough attack. Like the durability or potency of the attack won't actually be fatal to Ken Kaneki, or I see him doing an attack that where he personally may feel is fatal and leaves or is distracted from his mental state, which would give Ken Kaneki and Haise Sasaki the opening to be able to complete their conversation, him ask for help, and then the Ken Kaneki personality emerges. And at that point, because we have to, let's be honest here, even though their personalities are split, their body, it's still the same body. So he still has the muscle memory he's gained from fighting all of those years as a ghoul, just in general. And then on top of that, his newfound training that he's gotten with Kishio Arima, I don't see him losing. As I said before, Rio has lost to a basic investigator. He wasn't a basic investigator by no means, and I do apologize for actually not remembering the guy's name. But regardless, he lost that fight. Ken Kaneki has shown and proven that once he releases out of the Haise Sasaki, once he basically gets rid of Haise Sasaki for the moment, his durability, his attack power, he's just a lot more relentless on getting the job done. So I definitely see that if Rio does not in the fight, in the mid fight, then Haise wins landslide regardless. So that's my conclusion for this versus battle. Before I go, I want to thank everyone for listening this far. I greatly appreciate it. If you have any tips on how to go ahead and improve on these or work on these, I greatly appreciate it. This is a community. We all want to grow and want to get better. Side note, can somebody animate this? This sounds amazing. Regardless, these are our 2 characters of the series that have broken mental states, and I would love to see them go back and forth on that and actually see how that would happen. But once again, thank you guys again, and take care. Wolf Sensei out.